are doing an extremely interesting review. We are in a 1969 Ford Mustang, but it's not any 1969 Ford Mustang, it's Jack's 1969 Ford Mustang. You guys may have heard of this car numerous times on the channel, but we've never been able to feature it because it's never really, worked. They got this car back, oh man, it was when Jack turned 16, which was millions of years ago, because we know he's an old man, but he got it shipped out all the way from Illinois, I think it was, and the thing was in terrible condition. It had terrible paint job, the whole thing was falling apart. It had an automatic transmission, and him and his dad decided to do a full restoration of this car. Now, they started doing the restoration, they started doing body work, they got the engine squared away, and all sorts of other stuff, but then what happened was Jack actually wasn't able to be insured on the car, so he couldn't drive it. So the car sat for a few years in the garage. Jack kind of fell out of love with the thing, and it kind of just became a lump of metal that sat in the back of the garage. But now Jack is able to drive the car, and as soon as he was able to drive the car, as soon as he got insurance, first spin he took it out, he blew up the radiator. So the radiator cracked. He had to get a new one shipped out. That took a lot of time, but he gave me a call a couple days ago. He's like, Luke, come on up. Let's put the new radiator in, put in the new overflow tank, and let's do a review on the Mustang. And I was like, hell yeah, drive up, get everything squared away. And here I am behind the wheel of the Mustang at last. And man, does it feel epic. This thing is one hell of an experience. It's a total occasion. It's like nothing I've ever driven, and it's really like no Mustang anyone else has ever really driven for a lot of reasons. This is not a normal review, mainly because this is not a normal Mustang. This is a parts bin special thrown together by two guys in a garage. So let's start off with the powertrain of the Mustang. Normally I start off with the styling, but this time I'm going to start with the powertrain because that is extremely interesting in this car. Now, it's a 1969 car, but it has actually a 1971 engine in it. It's not a numbers matching engine, but it's a 302, which is 4.9 liters, and who knows what the horsepower is, because it, like I said, is a parts bin special. It has a Holley 4-barrel carburetor on it with a Edelbrock intake manifold, different cylinder heads, and who knows what power it actually makes, but it sounds amazing, absolutely ridiculous. They have Flowmaster exhaust going all the way back. It sounds ridiculous. He started up and oh my God, that burble is awesome. You hit the gas and you have that throaty exhaust note, and I can't really get it into the higher RPMs right now because it stumbles a bit under hard acceleration, but man, does the car sound great. It is a never-ending noise though. It doesn't quiet down. I'm here in the interior, and yeah, there's some sound deadening in the ceiling and all that, but it's loud, really freaking loud. Now, normally I go into all the details like, oh, it has such and such amount of horsepower to 0 to 60 in X seconds, top speed of blah, blah, blah. And now in this car, I don't know. I simply do not know. We have no clue what type of power it makes, no clue what the 0 to 60 is, and no clue what the top speed is. What I do know is that when you get to 70 miles an hour on the Speedo, it glows red. There's a red line there, which means that you probably shouldn't drive it much faster than 70. I mean, that's the 1960s for you. I mean, I'm sure this thing would hit over 100, but who the hell knows? Now, talking more about the powertrain, it has a 5-speed Ford Racing manual transmission in it. Now, they bought that and slapped that in there since the car originally had an automatic transmission, and man, does that add to the experience. The clutch pedal is like stepping on a block of lead. Now, this is not a hydraulically powered clutch, it's 100% manual, so you have to be fit. You have to be a man to drive this car, and that's not a sexist comment. If you're a woman and you have really strong legs, by all means hop behind the wheel, but you have to be strong to drive this thing, because when you push down on that clutch, God, you really gotta push. And God, when you slide it into gear, the click when you select each gear is awesome. You can feel it just go immediately into each gear, and the throws actually aren't that long. It's really kind of impressive how nice the transmission is to use in this car, especially considering the fact that it's so old. Now just listen to this engine. And yep, and that's where it likes to cut out. We have to tune the carburetor a bit. Oh, it's so loud. I apologize for the audio in advance. I don't know if my pen mic's going to be able to hold up to the sound of this 302 screaming away. We're doing a solid 40 miles an hour, which means that it's time for me to take a step back and talk about some of the features that this Mustang has. And I'll give you a hint, there aren't any. Absolutely none. Now this car came with AC at the time, but it doesn't work. They don't even have the compressor for it. It also has a heater, which doesn't work. It has a speedometer, which is the one thing that does work. It's reading and indicated 36 miles an hour, and I know that's right because I drove by a speed camera and it showed the right speed. But you have an alternator gauge that shows you how much power your alternator is producing. Doesn't work. Fuel gauge doesn't work. Temperature gauge doesn't work. Oil pressure, that one, you know, really doesn't work either. The one thing that does work though, besides the speedometer, I actually lied, there are multiple things that do work. The high beams, I love how to turn on the high beams. You step on a button on the dead pedal and that turns them on. It's awesome, but there's a clock, doesn't work. There's a seat recline function that doesn't work. But also the indicators work. And one thing that's so awesome about that is that these indicators, the actual indicator itself where it lights up is in the hood scoop. So you don't have it in the center gauge cluster like you would in any normal car. It's actually outside on the hood, which is unbelievably cool. It's a really quirky feature that this car has. Now, it's not exactly wired properly. If you indicate left, the light on the hood scoop lights up. That's great. But if you indicate right, the brake warning light on the dashboard lights up and blinks, not the actual indicator. And another issue is I'm driving along right now and the gear lever is flopping around like crazy. This is a never-ending experience, I'll tell you that much, which is why it's so hard to do an actual review on it, because I'm having to scream at the top of my lungs. Everything is constantly changing because this thing was built in a garage. Things break and things just magically start to work without a moment's notice. And the stereo in this thing is top notch. It consists of some wiring down here in the dashboard, and that's it. So it doesn't sound like anything really, but maybe one day Jack will get that thing to work. Now let's talk about the handling of the Mustang. It handles, I guess it turns. I mean, that's one upside. You can turn it. It stops if you push the brakes. This car actually has disc brakes, which they proudly display on the brake pedal. But God, the amount of play in this thing is ridiculous. I have a solid, I'd say 25 degrees of play in each direction on the steering wheel. It is pretty bad. But of course, this car isn't for back road blasting. It's not for destroying a track. It's for cruising down to your favorite restaurant on a Sunday, your girl by your side, go have a drink with some homies at the bar, something like that. It's a Sunday car. It's a cruise machine. And you get noticed so much. Every single time I've driven anywhere in this thing, people look at you and they love you, especially if they're a Mustang driver. I got peace signs from Mustang drivers driving by, people stopping to ask like what type of car it is, which is kind of funny because I feel like this car is pretty quintessential, which leads me into the styling. This car's style is unmistakably awesome and unmistakably American. We had this car parked next to La Porsche earlier when we were going on a drive, and that's the one thing that you can immediately tell when you look at both cars. The Porsche is German. It's engineered to be awesome on backwards. It's a little German rocket ship. It's a sports car. This is American muscle, baby. This thing screams USA, USA. Now, I could only imagine that when you start this thing up, instead of having a burbly exhaust note, the national anthem would come out the back. That's basically the personality that this car has, and you can see that in the style. Jack decided to go for this awesome dark blue paint that looks insane with all the chrome trim and the chrome wheels. Now, when you look at the paint in certain lights, it actually changes color too. Right now it's blue, but depending on the lighting, it can also look like a dark purple. And the metallic flake on it is awesome. It's such a nice paint job, and it better be, because it was $8,000. It was stupid expensive. They took off each individual body panel, had it sprayed, and the thing looks great, but damn, was that paint job expensive. Now, when you talk more about the style, you can't forget the front headlamps. You gotta love those circular headlamps. Jack put halos in, blue halos that flash up in the headlamps, look awesome. And when you hop in the interior, besides having all those things that don't work, you'll notice that it's actually a Mach 1 interior, even though this isn't a Mach 1 Mustang. They got it like that, and the interior is actually worth a decent amount of money, but they decided to keep it. It doesn't really fit, and pretty much everything's missing. There's really, nothing really works in here. But I mean, hell, that's life. And no one cares. No one cares. You hop in this car, you turn the key, you feel that 4.9 liter V8 fire to life, you hear that awesome exhaust note, you push down on that lead clutch pedal, you ram it into gear, and you sweat your balls off as you drive this thing around, because it's hard work, but damn is it rewarding. It puts such a huge smile on your face, because you just feel like a total unbelievable, what's the word I'm even looking for? You just feel like the manliest man out there when you drive this thing, because you gotta work for it, and it's so special as a result, because you have to put in so much effort to drive this. You couldn't drive it on a daily basis, but when you're driving it on a Sunday, you hear that awesome engine, and you're just cruising along, just smiling ear to ear. That's just how it is with this car. Just listen to that exhaust. Oh, that right there just sums up this car. It's badass. Absolutely badass. Yeah, everyone's like, oh, Mustang is going to crash your cars and coffee. Everyone has them, whatever. I mean, not like this. Not like this. This is the car that's been built. This is a car that has been loved, and you can just see that in the personality. This thing exudes personality. I would love to give you guys a full, real review on this car instead of just saying awesome over and over and over again, but I can't really give you a whole lot of review type content on this car because it's specialized. It's one of a kind. And if you're that dude that gave me so much for saying one of a kind, you can be quiet, because this thing is really one of a kind. No one has this exact same car. No one has done the same work to this exact car. No Mustang has the same quirks that this exact Mustang has, and all of that makes it so special and also impossible to review, because this thing is unproven. This is the first time this car has really moved under its own power in 6 years, about 6 years. So, I mean, there's really so many unknowns with this thing, and that's what makes it special. Now, I'm really glad that you guys tuned in and watched this review. I'm pulling back into lovely Seabright, New Jersey. My voice is completely gone, and yeah, I mean, this is one of those cars where you can drive it for a little bit, but after about 15 minutes, you kind of want to just park it and look at it and admire its beauty instead, which is what I'm going to do as soon as I get back to Jack's. Now, thanks again for tuning in, watching Motor Minds. If you want a full review on an actual classic Mustang, I'd say check somewhere else, because, I mean, this thing is just crazy. It's not anything like anything else, you know? It's just a completely different experience, and that's what I am here to share with you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Definitely subscribe if you like the content, like our videos, join the notification team, and we hope to see you guys tuning in and watching our next video.